Permanent? Archival? What does it all mean? Hey guys, welcome back to another video. It's Niko from Yoseka here today. We'll often see terms like permanent, archival, fade-proof, things like that on a bunch of products, and you may be wondering what these words mean and why people might want to use them. A lot of these terms are used to describe materials that are meant to be long-lasting and be preserved in your journal, notebook, whatever you're doing. So basically, all of these terms are used to describe materials that are longer lasting and made to really persist over time. So they'll often have qualities such as being water resistant or waterproof, fade resistant, and will often do better when exposed to certain elements such as sunlight or water. In the stationery community, this concept is important to some people who really want to make sure that their journal stands the test of time and makes it through their lifetime without any fading or things like that. In this video today, we're going to go over what the terms permanent and archival mean, and then we'll go into some products such as inks and pens that are either permanent or archival and talk a little bit about their properties. I do want to note that a major part of preservation has to do with the conditions that you're storing your items in. For example, if you want to make sure that your journal really lasts a long time, oftentimes a lower humid, cooler, stable, and dark location will be the best place to store your things. Even if you're using a very permanent archival ink, if you leave it out in the sun for like a year straight, nothing is really going to do great with that, given like the acidity of ink, the paper it's on, and all of those factors. So the storage conditions of your journal also do matter alongside with the materials you're using. So what do the terms permanent and archival mean? These two words are often used interchangeably in the stationery community, but there is one important distinction between the two that we're going to talk about. When the word permanent is used, you can typically assume that this material will be water resistant or even waterproof, but it won't necessarily be fade resistant. However, when you see the word archival used, archival materials will have all the properties that a permanent material does, and it will also have that fade resistance in it. Products such as Gall inks, certain Fineliners, and things like that will often be labeled as archival when they've been tested and we know that they will really stand the test of time. So what should you be using if you want to make sure that your journal lasts through your lifetime? Honestly, most fountain pen inks and materials you're already using will probably be fine as long as you're keeping it in a kind of darker, cooler, low humidity place. I don't think there's going to be a high chance of things fading away and disappearing. However, if you want to make sure that your writings and memories make it through like generations, or if you're putting something up in a gallery where it'll be more exposed to light and things like that, that's when you do want to do your research and make sure that you're using archival materials that will last that long. So first up is Diamine's Forever Ink. So this ink line is archival, comes in a bunch of colors, and has qualities such as light fastness, which is another term used when we're talking about fade resistance. This is a pigment ink, but it's actually nano pigments, so they formulated it so that it's a little bit more fountain pen friendly, but obviously you will still want to take some of the same precautions and make sure you're using the pen frequently and cleaning it out when needed. Up next, we've got Gall inks. Gall inks have a very long history. In modern times, they've been reformulated to be more fountain pen friendly, and a lot of inks you'll find today that are labeled as Gall actually just have a small concentration of Gall in them, which makes them a little bit more fountain pen friendly. They're known for their unique reaction when you write on paper. They will often darken very quickly, and they are also notable for being very highly resistant to water and also extremely fade resistant. Some of the popular brands we carry of these include Platinum's Classic Collection and also Bungu Box's Original line, both of which we'll test out today. Our next ink is the Platinum Carbon Black ink. So this one is truly archival, and it's also known for its very, very dark black hue. Platinum's Pigment line and also the Kakimori pigment inks are also a great permanent ink as well. These are both water and fade resistant, but they're not labeled necessarily as archival. I also wanted to touch on a couple of pens. One of these is marketed as archival, whereas the other one doesn't use the term archival, but it is marked as water and fade resistant, which are both kind of like archival qualities. These are really great for writing or art that you want to last a long time, but these are also really nice to use with water-based pigments, such as like acrylic, gouache, watercolor, things like that. Up first here, we've got the Copic Multi-Liner. And then we've got the Pentel Point Liner. So this is the one that is marketed as water and fade resistant, whereas the Copic Multi-Liner is labeled with the term archival. So we're gonna go ahead and also make swatches for both of these to do our water test in. If Fineliners are not necessarily your cup of tea, there are actually also Archival ballpoint, rollerball, and gel pens as well. One of the most popular ones of these is gonna be the Uniball Signo. These are marketed as Archival, so they're fade proof and waterproof. So we're also going to swatch one of these for our test. All right, let's go through and swatch all of our inks now. We're going to start with the Carbon Black. Up next, we'll be doing the Platinum Pigment ink. All right, now we've got the Kakimori Pigment ink. All right, we've got the Platinum Classics line here now. Here is our Bungu Box original ink. And finally, we've got our Diamine Forever ink. And then this is the sheet that we'll also be doing our water test on, so I'm going to go ahead and also swatch our 3 pens as well. Okay, we will let these dry for a little bit, and then we're going to go through with a water brush pen and do a water test on these. So as we can see here, the Platinum Carbon Black, Pigment inks, and the Diamine Forever ink all performed pretty well. They didn't smudge much, but the Platinum Classic ink and Bungu Box Original ink actually smudged and blew out quite a bit with the water there. Moving on down to the pens, the Pencil Point Liner and Copic Multiliner both did really well as expected. And then the Uniball Signo, which was the gel ink, did smudge as we went over it with the brush pen there. So I would say that the Uniball Signo, Platinum Classic ink, and Bungu Box Original ink would be more water resistant than waterproof, but the rest of them performed really great. How serious you want to get about the archival quality of the materials you're using is totally up to you and how long you want your things to last. If you journal every day and maybe just want them to last through your lifetime, you're probably fine using whatever you're using now as long as you're storing it in those dry, low humid, cool conditions. If you're wanting them to last through generations though, to get through light exposure, be okay if something happens like water damage, however, you might want to look into some archival materials to make sure that your journals will be preserved through time. We hope that this video was helpful in teaching you a little bit about the terms permanent and archival, what they each mean, the qualities they both have, and also that the water test gave you a good glimpse at what each one is capable of. If you've used any of these before, we'd love to hear your thoughts on them down below, and if there's any products that we didn't mention in this video that you find have great archival qualities, please let us know down below as well. We'd love to hear more. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye!